Okay. Welcome, super secret agent trainees, to WhizGirls Academy. Today we have a special master agent trainer, Kariza Martin. She's coming to us all the way from Melbourne, Australia. And you'll have to Google where that is if you don't know where that is. But she's going to tell us about her journey in STEM. So thank you, Kariza, for sharing your journey with us. And she's currently an engineer at Boeing, and she's also has a PhD. So she's going to tell us all about her journey. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks for the introduction.
Okay, so tell us about your childhood.
Okay, so I was born in the Philippines, but my family immigrated to Melbourne, Australia when I was 2 years old. So I've grown up in the western suburbs of Melbourne my whole life. Got two brothers. So I'm the middle child, older brother and younger brother. And yeah, very standard life, classical immigrant life growing up in Australia.
Yeah. All right, and tell us if you had hobbies or any kind of cool things that you played with as a child, like passions, anything like that.
Interesting question. So, it's funny because of, I guess, ending up in STEM. But when I was a kid, my interests and passions really were history. And I love to read, and specifically historical books, like anything Egyptian history I was obsessed with, like fiction, nonfiction. And then I loved hearing about, reading about what it was like back in World War I and World War II. So mainly fiction reading. And I guess, which is also why when I was a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist, because I watched Indiana Jones, and then I had that love for history. I guess me ending up in STEM, it was probably because that was what the the school, the teachers I had, that's the stuff that was nurtured. So if I had teachers that nurtured history, who knows, I might have ended up working in that field anyway. But yeah, I guess boring to say, but reading was my hobby as a child.
No, I love to read, and I still go to the library, so that's awesome. But yeah. I'm curious, was archaeologist your dream job?
I think it was because I watched Indiana Jones, and that's why I'm I'm going to be an archaeologist. I want to go to the desert and dig up bones and lost treasures. And it's just I think growing up, you see what the options are before you, and then the subjects that you started, the subjects that I started enjoying, and it were the ones where I clicked with my teachers, and those happened to be my STEM subjects. So it's funny, that's why I ended up in STEM when it could have easily have been somewhere in the history, or maybe in the arts.
That's interesting. I think the media influenced our generation a lot, and the fact that I had my journey and you've had yours with Indiana Jones, that's pretty cool. I'm curious if you've ever gone to Disneyland and been on the ride and had that experience. Yeah.
I've been to, I think I have, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Is it Disney World? I've been to Disney World. So I've been to the US.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. So tell us when you first heard about STEM.
I don't believe I was familiar with actual, the STEM acronym until either late high school or early university. I think it wasn't something that was I was made aware of to pay more interest in, or I don't think the acronym was as popular growing up. I would have been early 2000s, around when I was mainly in middle school and high school. So I don't think it was quite as popular back then. But I guess my love for science, it's because I had great teachers in those subjects. And that's why I liked to read about it, because their passion for it was infectious.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm curious if you had any mentors along the way.
Mentors? Probably not officially, but I'll go back to those teachers. Mentors wouldn't that's probably the closest word that for them, because it wasn't just teaching, they were dedicated. So for example, this was in high school, but they would stay back after school and try help us do practice questions. So it would be for everyone, and it'd be out of their own time. And I think that's what and like they were also very invested in making the subject interesting. So it wasn't just reading from a book, but it was always an applied perspective whenever they taught us. So I think that even though they were just doing their job, that they went above and beyond, and to me they were like mentors.
Very cool. Okay, so you started at our MIT University with an aerospace engineering degree and a business management degree. And then you got a PhD, and you've done a ton of things in between. So tell us about that journey.
So I guess I'll start with why I chose aerospace engineering and business management. So I got to year 11 and 12, which is our final two high school years here in Australia. And that's when you choose your what course you're going to apply for university. My mom actually suggested I do engineering, and I'm like, oh, what's that? And yeah, I was sold. But I guess why aerospace? And it was because it sounded the most exciting. It's like, oh yeah, like I could work on things that fly, and I love like traveling, or like I loved going, like when I associated airplanes with like the happiest moments of my life, because it was when we were going back to Philippines to visit my cousins and relatives. So hence aerospace. I chose the business management degree only because I had the enter score, so um, it's like the grade you need to get into it. And I'm like, oh, I managed to get the grade, so I'll just do it. I think it was really useful doing business. It's useful now, but probably after the first few years of graduation, I was like, well, it doubled my debt, but it was fine. Like now it's okay. But the first couple of years when I wasn't using it, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But it's fine in the long term. So I made sure during my undergraduate degree, I would take advantage of everything that the university had to offer. So the first one was there was a university exchange where I went to China and I lived there for 5-6 months, and that was paid for by the university. So we got the scholarship, or people who applied for it got the scholarship, which basically covered the flights and accommodation. And I studied at Nanjing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics in second year, and then there were the internships I did. So I did I did 2 in Australia. One in a defense research organization here, and another for a defense contractor. And then I also did a 1-year internship in the UK with Rolls-Royce, and that was an amazing experience. And all of it was part of RMIT. And so I definitely made sure I had the full university experience, and it was amazing. Best years. Since then, so after I graduated, I worked at the defense company, a contracting company here. And then I realized I missed research, or I missed learning, which is why I chose to do that PhD, which Boeing sponsored. It was on improving composite toughness using additive manufacturing, and great experience. And I think a lot of it was I really wanted to do it because part of me would always wonder, what if I didn't? I definitely prefer industry, having done research and industry work. I know now. And then, which is why I guess I work as a engineer now at Boeing rather than continuing on with academia. And that's my journey so far.
Okay, that's really cool. So let's back up, because our secret agents are probably puzzled. So you worked as an intern for Rolls-Royce, which is a fancy car, right? So like, tell us how that happened, because you just kind of said, oh, I did my internship at Rolls-Royce and that was it.
Yeah, so it was actually the engine. So they make the it wasn't the car one, it was the aircraft engines. So
okay.
It was for the what's it called? It was the I think it's called the Hawk aircraft. It's a trainer aircraft a lot of militaries use, or air forces use. So I was in the service engineering department there for a year. It was great experience living in the UK for a year, and it was really interesting work too.
Yeah, that's really good. And I'm glad that we clarified that, because I think they would have been like, how did you go from a fancy car to like Boeing? Like that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would have loved that. Would have been amazing having worked for the car.
Yeah. Okay. So at some point, I think you worked at Kinetic. So tell us about that and what that was about as well.
Yeah. So they're contractors for defense, so Air Force, Royal Australian Air Force, and the Navy, and so that also was service engineering. So it was in the life maintenance. So I sat with the RAF for it would have been almost a year, and just supported the RAF where I needed to in like life sustaining the life of their aging fleet. Also, when I say RAF, it's the Royal Australian Air Force.
Yeah, that's one thing I was like, for our secret agents would probably be like, what are these? What are these things? But thank you for clarifying that. I think that's very helpful. Okay, so how did you pick, I guess, the specific engineering that you did, which is, I mean, you majored in aerospace engineering, but now you're a manufacturing and process engineer at Boeing. So, like, tell us how that whole journey came about.
So it ties in, I guess, to my PhD, or also our site. So Boeing Aerostructures Australia is very focused on manufacturing and composites specifically. And my PhD, which the research department here sits at, sponsored my PhD. And I guess when I finished it, they employed me as a composites research engineer, which is very, very similar to manufacturing or materials and process engineer. So I guess that's how that fell about. It's just what industry or what Boeing offers here on site, and it ties in with the PhD and the job I ended up with now.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, in the midst of all this stuff, have been volunteering and tutoring and like doing something at an orphanage I saw you mentioned on LinkedIn, and then you've won a ton of awards. Like I think originally it was the Young Aviator of the Year award, and then like something from Boeing and Australian Aviation, and then like Aerospace Enterprise, like Royal Aeronautical Society. Like there's like a long list of honors and awards. So that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. So a lot of those awards, I haven't updated my LinkedIn or that part of it in a while. So a lot of them were from university. The main ones probably since university were the Young Aviator of the Year. So I got that this year, which I'm very grateful for. And I think there might have been some like Boeing technical conference one, which was very related to my PhD. But yeah, the majority of them I listed back when I made my LinkedIn during university years were from during my undergraduate degree. And yeah, it was great. I think that's where I go back to. I had such a great university experience. It was a lot of I made sure I studied a lot, and there was a lot that RMIT offered me. Also, I guess some of those were scholarships, and those are ones I applied for. So I'm not sure about the US, but here in Australia, a lot of the universities offer scholarships, which some students, especially like when I was going through my undergraduate degree, don't know about. So I remember I just searched for it. It's like, oh, scholarships, okay, that applies to me. And then you find out that not many people apply for it. So basically whoever applies gets it. But yeah, so that's I guess my tip for young people now. It might seem far away, but when you're at university, always have a shot and try and apply for those scholarships or awards were the ones that you can apply for.
Yeah, I think the George Alexander scholarship
one
I saw, and then the ExxonMobil Chancellor Award. So there's a ton of those.
Yeah.
And then I'm curious, like, how did you pick RMIT for the university experience? I think our secret agents probably would like to know why you picked.
Yeah. That's a really good question, because there are two universities in Victoria that do aerospace engineering. So I decided I'll do aerospace engineering. There's a university called Monash that do it, and then there's RMIT that's in the Melbourne vicinity, because I didn't want to move out of home for my undergraduate degree. I wanted to live at home, save some money. I went to both the open days, and Monash was a beautiful campus, but at RMIT, the people they had on the day, the people at the stands where they undergraduate students and the PhD students, they'll engage with the students or high school students walking past. They really sold it to me. They told me about the international internship program. So there was that the one where I went to Rolls-Royce for, and like that already like had me. I'm like, I want to go work for a year overseas during my university degree. That was a big reason why I chose RMIT. Also, it was a bit closer to home, but like that was just only a small factor.
Okay.
Yeah. They're much more engaged. Like they were very engaging, the students, when I went there.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think when you're narrowing down what universities, obviously
Yeah.
a lot of them you have to, apply for and see if you got chosen as well. It's like if you really
Yeah.
want to go, it'd be nice, but sometimes you don't get chosen and you got to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you didn't have that issue.
Yeah, the other one, Monash, that required a higher enter score as well. So like that's like, but RMIT just happened to be it ticked the boxes at the time.
Very cool. Okay, let's go back to a question that I always love to ask. What did you learn when you were 11 years old that you have kept with you today?
I was thinking about this. 11 grade. That's probably our equivalent of grade 6 or grade 5. I think 11 was when I probably started caring about, well, not studying. That's really the wrong word. You don't study in grade 5 when you're 11. But it's when I decided I want to do better, or I want to actually put effort in my work. And I think that work ethic has stuck with me, and if not, has gotten stronger since I was at that age. Because that's grade 5, grade 6. That's when you start get given assignments that are like 4 weeks long. And I'm like, okay, I've been given this present. Like I have to make a poster on, I don't know, something to do with like history or something. And that's when I started wanting to do well rather than just trying to slap something together last minute. And yeah, it's ever since then I've always tried to put effort in.
Yeah.
And another thing is this was an 11, but this is 13, and this is probably, I guess, a motto that's stuck with me ever since. It's I did really badly on a test I studied really hard for, and my biology teacher, she said, every failure is a stepping stone to success. So I guess now I don't. Ever since then, I try not to look at when I do badly or when I fail as something that's bad. It's just like an improvement or way to, like I guess a way to do better, or an opportunity to do better.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that sticks in your mind always when you're working on things, even out of university and like in real life. That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, it's huge. Okay, we're going to switch to some student questions. This is a comment and a question. You are a real life superhero and a role model. Thank you. Have you had someone who inspired you along your STEM journey? And then how did their encouragement help you become even more awesome?
Well, I guess the reason I've even considered to do engineering was my mom, and she inspired me because I've not once growing up did I ever get told I couldn't do something, or it's something I should be worried about, like trying to do something. I've never had that barrier from my parents put in front of me, and I know I'm so fortunate that, and it's not even like intentional, but it's also like some unconscious biases they might have. Like my mom was made effort not to like put that in front of me, because I was speaking to her this is probably last year, and she was saying to me how she used to be so worried when I was in high school or middle school. I used to do debating, and you have to go in front of the whole school and do debating, and my mom's like, I don't even like, she didn't even know whether I would be good at it. I only did it because like no one wanted to do it. So I'm like, okay. And she would remember saying she was so worried for me, but she made sure she never once questioned, are you sure you want to do this, or are you sure you're ready? She just supported me, and I think that's really helped. And it's something where I never thought of until she mentioned it, and until others have told me where they, like, women who face problems entering STEM, or maybe from their family or friends. It's just something I didn't have, and I'm very grateful for my parents for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's go to another question. What superpowers do you find that you have that have pushed you to where you are today?
I think the main superpower is, I guess, the ability to, what's that word where even if you don't want to do something, you will do it. It's having motivation. I guess that's the closest word I can think of. I think there's a better one. Or even like, I guess like even when I'm not motivated to, like going through high school or university, even if I absolutely didn't want to sit down and study for a test or write up a report. I think it's something I can always do, even if I don't have motivation. I'll just, I think it's probably just that strong work ethic. I'll just always do it. And I think that's probably my superpower, where I can keep trying, putting effort in.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like grit and persistence.
Yeah.
So like, as long as you keep moving forward, even if you fall back a little bit, it's okay because you're still on your path, and it's not always very clear. Because like you mentioned earlier that you wanted to be like Indiana Jones, which is very cool, I think. And honestly, like I think that would have been really interesting. But now you're taking it to a different level, and you're kind of like a technical Indiana Jones in a way, because you're like building things as an engineer, and then you're researching them, and like it's kind of like more of a techie version, I think, like more hardware versus like architects, right?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I like that, technical Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I really think so, because when you were talking, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, she's doing research, and she's also doing a lot of hardware, which is pure tech as well, and that's pretty cool for Boeing, and that's obviously a huge company, and like that's like you are like the superhero. You probably have to get a new name, not Indiana Jones, but you got your own like superpowers in that sense.
Thanks.
And it's like very STEM focused, obviously, and it as a female, minority and all the things, like you kind of hit all the boxes, but it's really like this is your purpose and this is your passion. So like you're doing it, and no matter what, you're still doing it. And you had your mom as like the kind of like initial, I wouldn't say instigator, but she really like encouraged you to be in the space, which is awesome, because I think sometimes parents want different things for their kids, and then you hear something different from your teachers, and then when you get to college it's very different. So like along the lines you kind of get like muddied. But like I think it's interesting because we both were very inspired by the media, and also like reading books, because I still love going to the library as well. So it's an interesting combination of STEM. I think that's like all of the buckets kind of get filled. Okay, let's see. What other questions do they send? Do you have any tips or advice for our super secret agents listening in the audience?
So what age are these?
So originally they were 9 to 14, but as we've been doing this now for a couple months, we found that adults are very interested as well. So, yeah, wide range.
I guess my tip, I can only talk from my experience, and I guess I've never had a plan. It's like what I want to do this year, then this year. I've tried to now, but like having finished university, high school, university, after that university where it's like, okay, I've got the degree, where to next? Like I didn't realize I'd like during my undergraduate that I'd do a PhD. It was just more, I played things by ear and seeing what was available at the time, and like following my gut and like what I wanted to see, like what I felt like I wanted, and going down that path. I think my tip would be, I guess, no matter what I decided, I'd always try and do as best as I could in it. And it was putting in 110% effort. So during my PhD, making sure I could do it as best as I can. And that was really good, because it led to a job with Boeing, and it led to great relationships I built with people at RMIT, so lecturers and like people I did my PhD with who are now research fellows there. And then going into my job, trying to do as best as I can. And there are like, I guess no matter what you're doing, if you're dedicated, you're enthusiastic, and you come in with a good attitude, I feel it's always recognized. Like, which was, I guess, that Young Aviator of the Award that was from a nomination from the leadership team here. And I think, and like, I was very grateful for that because it showed recognition for the effort I want to put in.
Yeah, and tell us actually a little bit more about that process, and how did you know that you were nominated? Did somebody nominate you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so I got an email saying I was nominated, and then I had to answer a few questions like, what do you think you do that makes you stand out? I can't remember, but that's just the one question because I remember that was really hard to answer. But questions along that theme, and then they submitted it to Australian Aviation. So it's actually a magazine that held that ceremony, and then I found out a couple months later that I was shortlisted, so I got to attend the awards night. And then it wasn't until I got there and like the actual night where they announced my name on stage that I knew I won. So that was great.
Oh, nice!
Great surprise. Yeah.
Masters of STEM, like that's really cool because I don't think anybody knows they're going to win officially. I mean, everyone's kind of in the running, and then that's awesome. Very cool.
See, that was great.
I think there's a movie in store for you with your story in between like the Indiana Jones and all the stuff that you do now. Like there's something there for sure. You know, we are in LA, so that's kind of my brain thing.
It's funny because like that's something I've always said. Like they need to make, if they want more female engineers, they need to make it like they need to sell it by creating a TV show. Because I remember Grey's Anatomy. Everyone wanted to be a doctor when that came out. Yep. I'm pretty sure I wanted to be a doctor when that came out.
Yeah, it's true. Science is huge because medicine and women, like that's not an issue at all. But like we still have some issues, unfortunately, with tech and engineering and in STEM overall, which I think between the two of us and everyone that we've had on the podcast so far, like we're making inroads to make a difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what other questions we have. How can our super secret agents start looking into aerospace engineering? What do you recommend?
Oh, really good. So I don't follow what I did because I just did it because it sounded cool. I would probably attend open days and speak to the students that are there that are already doing it and ask them what the degree's like, whether they'd recommend it. And something I wish I did would be look at what jobs it leads to, and if you can like speak to someone in those jobs. I don't know, I guess if you're coming in cold, I don't know how you'd find it, but I know some like I'm sure some like there's a Boeing, or like of course there's definitely a Boeing in the US, but there are like, I'm sure there are aerospace companies like close by where you have a website or an email and just ask if you can have a chat with a practicing aerospace engineer and see if it's like a job you think you could do. Because, and also keep in mind, it can be very, very different. So like myself as a materials or manufacturing and process engineer, who's also an aerospace engineer, has a very different job to a design engineer who's also an aerospace engineer on the same site. And like, yeah, see what the options are. That's probably my best advice, just to see if it's for you.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Can you tell us the difference between the two? And I think that would be great.
So I support production, so I'm on the floor a lot. Like I'm probably at my desk only like at most 50% of the day. So it's like firefighting issues that are happening during the manufacturing process, whereas a design engineer is actually creating a 3D part on the computer. So they're at their desk 100% of the time, but they have, at the end of it, they've got a great part that's going to be built. And it's my role, I guess, like as a materials or manufacturing process engineer, it's their role to figure out how to build it. So which is why they're on the floor with the equipment a lot, versus the design engineer who's making sure it meets aerodynamic requirement, structural requirement. They do that.
So you need to have both hand in hand, basically. That's really important because you can't just have one or the other.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, how did you decide for the manufacturing versus the design? Like,
it's because I my PhD was very experimental focused and manufacturing focused, and that like followed on to roles which were much more about the manufacturing side rather than the design side. Like it really is because of my PhD. It was a natural progression.
Okay, so you basically got a job kind of, it sounds like, easily after, because it was very much what you were working on.
Yeah,
For many
exactly.
years.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But if you come in a grad, so when the grads come in, they've got like all the options ahead of them, and it's great because we've got a rotation program. So they do 6 months in different jobs and see what they prefer and see what they like.
Very cool. Yeah, that's like a test trial of like the different opportunities available and the different job paths in a sense. I mean, they all technically have to work together, but
Yeah,
you get to be like picking which one suits your, personality, like
that's
skills,
exactly.
like, your strengths, all the things.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's exactly it.
Very cool. Okay. Looking into the future is exciting. What do you imagine for girls in STEM down the road, and how can we make sure that everyone gets a chance to be part of the STEM adventure?
So much that industry's doing and societal expectations are changing. So I genuinely believe we will have more females in STEM down the road. Like now, it's definitely, I'd definitely say, at least in Australia, engineering it's a well-paid, satisfying, safe job, which allows for work-life balance. I can't. It's something which I guess high school students don't necessarily think about. They don't think about, oh, when I get to my mid-30s or my 40s, like how important will work-life balance be for me? And I think because the more we speak about it, the more um, people know it's an option. I'm sure we will improve our um, the ratios. And so I missed the second part of the question.
Let's see. How can we make sure that everyone gets a chance to be part of the STEM adventure?
I think like stuff like this, like it's just giving, like, well, you can, like, I can't remember that phrase, but you can see, if you can see her, you can be her.
Right.
And it's just more awareness that it is an option, like especially at that younger age, like which we're doing. It's like, or that 9 to 14 where it's so critical, because that's gonna just that, well, it's usually around that age when you decide what subjects you're going to focus on in high school, and then which will lead on to your degree. So it's definitely having those discussions.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's why we're doing it. Okay, this is an interesting question I want to tackle with from a student. So, you generally investigate ways to make aircraft lighter so that air travel can become more accessible to everyone. Can you explain how you were able to determine that goal and dream to work in aerospace?
Yeah. So I loved traveling as a kid, but it was so expensive. So we only went to Philippines every 3 years. It was just too expensive to go every year. And I, because the more accessible flying is, and it's not, I guess, not just for traveling and holidays, but seeing family and friends overseas, it, and to get to do that, and I guess with my specific skill set, it's to improve the structures, so improve the materials that we use so we can make it lighter, use less fuel, cheaper fuel prices. And I guess like me doing my engineering or my PhD and then my job now, it's come about, oh, not accidentally, but like depending on what was available at the time and what the company chooses to focus on. But I guess what keeps me going and what inspires me, motivates me to want to do better technically is trying to make air flight more accessible to everyone. And the way I can do that is by making materials lighter or improving the manufacturing process as well and making that more affordable as well.
Yeah, and it's awesome. How long have you been doing that for?
I did my PhD in end of 2015. So that's when I started my PhD, and then it's been in that same field generally since then. So
Very cool.
I'd say years.
Yeah, wow. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Okay, so what overall advice would you give our aspiring secret agents in the audience?
So I guess two would be, the first is always go for it and never be worried about getting rejected. Like, rejection is not like, if you like, it's not even something that should factor in as to why you shouldn't apply for something. So no matter what it is, I try out for it. Like, I've definitely been rejected. So I did apply for like other awards which I didn't get, which aren't listed obviously, and scholarships and that. Um, and the secondly is, once you get something, or once you're there, if you've gone through, just do as best as you can.
That's
And
really good advice. Yeah, no, that's really, really good advice. And I think handling the rejections is also a whole nother topic we could talk for hours
yeah.
about. But I think it's great that you brought that up because it's real and it's raw. Um, okay, so how can our special secret agents trainees follow your journey moving forward? Is it LinkedIn, Instagram? You have a website?
The only thing I really have is LinkedIn. You can find me. I think I'm the only Kariza Martin there. So it is a unique name, so it's I'm easy to find. I have an Instagram for my dog. I don't have a personal one. So, but if you do want to follow my dog, which I occasionally appear in, it's Jackie, JACKIE _Winks, WINKS. It's because she has one eye. So
What kind of
yeah,
dog is it?
she's a husky. Where maybe I can like
Oh my God,
that's
so
her.
adorable. How old is she?
She turned 11 last week.
Aw, happy birthday, Pinky.
I know, and I've had her since she was a puppy.
Aw, very cute. Yeah, we can add that to the show notes when we go live officially. Okay, so we're going to do something fun now. We're going to do key takeaways, and then we're also going to do 60 seconds of like, what was your favorite toy growing up? So, like, what was your favorite toy growing up?
Okay. Also, my favorite toy. I love stuffed toys, so just because they were soft.
So, like, plush? Any specific?
Yeah, plush. It was probably the unbranded stuff that they sold at Big W or Kmart. I'm not sure if you guys have that. Whatever. It was like usually the ones which were in the shape of a dog.
Okay, so like I was gonna say teddy bears, but okay, so like dog plush. Okay, interesting. And what about any like video games you played with as a kid?
The only one I played was Super Mario on the Game Boys. Like, they were black and white back then, so like little handheld ones.
Yeah, the originals. Did you watch the Super Mario Brothers movie?
I did, although I didn't. I watched it on a plane, so I think I fell asleep. Like, not because it was bad, only because I was so tired.
Yeah,
but it was really good.
Yeah,
It's funny.
that was my childhood. What about sci-fi, like Star Wars versus Star Trek, or both?
Star Wars. I didn't really watch Star Trek, but I love Star Wars. Absolutely.
That's right.
I still do.
Strong with you. Yes, for sure. Let's see. What about if you watched an animated series when you were a kid? Like which one?
The Simpsons. So that's probably the main one. And yeah, I think we still try and quote it today. My memory's not as good as it used to be, but like if there's an opportunity for a Simpsons quote, like it'll happen.
I love it. That's awesome. And what about any shows as a kid that you watched that like really resonated with you?
I loved Charmed, the one where there were three sisters that were witches. I probably was a bit too young for it, but it's probably the only show, or one of like, two shows where I've seen the entire all season, every episode, every season.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's a good one. But also that theme song is in my head because I love that song. So yeah. Now I'm going to have that in my head.
I can't remember, but once I hear it, I'll remember.
It's I think it's Morrissey.
Yeah.
It's well, it is Morrissey, but it's
I remember it now.
The band.
I Am the Sun. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. That's like totally in my head now. What about shows that, like, if you're watching anything now, like streaming or on TV?
I just finished watching all of Modern Family, so that took me a while. It was pretty funny. At the moment, though, that's the last and that and Only Murders in the Building. That's the last shows I've seen.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your favorite superhero?
Ooh. It's a hard one. It'll definitely be Marvel because I do prefer Marvel. Probably, I really liked, let's say Iron Man, but that's probably in the earlier years. Towards the end, I probably lean towards more, really like Captain America. It's
Yeah,
such a boring answer, but I love Captain
I think
America.
both are cool. I mean, Iron Man, obviously, with the tech and everything, and like
Yeah.
the thing about Elon Musk, that's a whole nother level. And I think you're kind of doing that as well. That's like a combination of Indiana Jones and Iron Man for you. But yeah, Captain America is cool too. Yeah, very cool. Okay, we're gonna switch to key takeaways. So let us know if we missed anything, and we'll add. All right, so practice your interests early on, grasp the opportunities around you, push yourself to keep trying and move forward even if you fall back. No matter where you are at, try your very best at whatever you do. Your enthusiasm in your work will be recognized. Do what intrigues you. Find role models in those that are more experienced in your interests. See all of your options for your future. Persevere through, always go for it, and never be worried about rejection.
Yes. I think you covered everything. Although one thing I remembered while you were talking was something that I only recently learned in the last couple of years, and it's like not being afraid to just reach out to people, like cold call people, because like I've done it, and it's because my friend pushed me to do it, and they actually always respond. So it's like, for example, if I want career advice from someone senior in the company, and like I may not have spoken to them before, and I send them an email, and they're always so receptive and positive with their responses. And like if I get it from a grad, and because we got a lot of new grads this year, and I feel so flattered when someone sends me, I'm like, oh yeah, of course I'd love it to have a chat. So I think there's a lot of power in cold calling people, and like 99% of the time, like it's always a positive interaction for both people.
That's a really good point, and we actually wouldn't be here today if I didn't reach out
exactly.
to LinkedIn. So we'll full circle on that, so we can end.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I know you have a hard stop. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. We are so grateful for you and all of the stuff that you do, and we can't wait to follow what you're going to do moving forward. And I think there's definitely a movie or something in the works. So once people see this, they'll probably reach out to you.
Oh, thanks, Steve Sharon. Thanks for giving the opportunity to talk.
And that's it for us today at WhizGirls Academy. Super Secret Agents will be back again tomorrow with a new exciting master agent. So stay tuned. Thanks again. Bye.